So today we got a question from Bob, and if you guys are new on the channel, Bob questions are the ones where people want to remain anonymous, and you'll know why in just a second why he wants to remain anonymous. But we got a question here from a 37-year-old jiu-jitsu practitioner, and he's been training jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai for a good amount of time now, and he says that he is loving jiu-jitsu, he's addicted to it, he does private lessons, he does all that stuff, right? Well, he says his sexual orientation is homosexual. Says that's what he is. He's a gay man. He says he's not what he says the quote stereotypical gay man. He says everybody thinks he's straight in his gym, but he has not come out to anyone. He hasn't said what he actually is in that sense to anyone else because, you know, one is he says it's something where it's not their business, right? So he's not going to come up. But also he says that, you know, just kind of growing up when we did around our age, like, it was something you felt shamed about. And so he's like, I don't open up with people unless I really trust them and I kind of have a good feeling that they'll be okay with them. But he says he's come to the point where, in his own wording, because again, it's a long message, he's come in his own wording that basically he's hiding something from people, right? He's developing this relationship with people. He enjoys being on the mats with people. Everybody's super cool. But again, he feels like he's hiding something from everyone. And he would like to just be open about it, just to be free of that, right? Just to be free of that burden. But again, he's not sure. What if I open up to him and they look at me differently and they look at me negatively and they start bullying me or whatever? And so his question then comes to me. One, what are your thoughts on gays in jiu-jitsu? It's a close contact sport and all that stuff, but he says, like, when I'm rolling, I'm thinking about submitting the person, nothing else. And then he says that, you know, what would you recommend in this situation? Do you have any other advice? So, Bob, thanks for the question. And man, I got that message from you, and again, I wanted to try to do a good video because it's a tough situation for sure, you know? So first off, what are my thoughts? Man, I don't care, you know, and I don't know this is, I grew up, you know, again, as a kid who was in church. I went to a Southern Baptist church. I was a Christian and all that stuff. I grew up with people saying things that like gays are going to hell and all this kind of thing. And for me, as I got older, I ended up like having a bunch of my friends, like not a bunch, but there's a couple of them, right, end up being gay. And I was like, oh, yeah, he's gay. He's cool. Like, I don't want him to go to hell. He's a nice guy, right? Like, it wasn't that important to me. Also, as I got older, I got really into history. And then when you get into history, you see that, like, you know, homosexual relationships are just, they're everywhere. Like, you know, you'll see people like, I had a friend one time and he got really mad at me. He was talking about how badass the Spartans were. But I knew he was very anti-gay. So I was like, you know, those dudes like used to like, they had a lot of relationships together, you know? Again, he wasn't a big fan of that. But again, with history, you see it all over the place. So it's not a thing to me, right? And especially as a coach, I'm just not worried about it, you know? Because again, when you come in, my judgment on you has nothing to do with who you are outside. It has everything to do with who your character is, what's your character inside of here. Like, how do you react when people smash you? How are you to your teammates and training partners? Like, how do you deal with all this stuff? That's what's more important to me because I really don't care about all that stuff that much, right? I'm care about who you are inside of this place. And I've had several students who were gay. I remember I had one guy that was training and he just came out one day where he was getting ready to leave because he's moving into another city, and he just said, yeah, me and my husband were moving furniture. And it just kind of, oh, I didn't know. Like, never said anything, but whatever, you know? And then we used to have a woman not that long ago. She moved as well, but her girlfriend would sit right here on the thing, and she would train, and she would just watch her right there. No big deal. It's fine. It's not a big deal. So again, I've never really worried about it. But I think I understand, at least to a shred, because my situation I'm about to explain to you is not nearly as like powerful or impactful as yours. But I get a little bit of where you're coming from with this like sort of inner like hiding and this shame about it, right? So when I was from 18 years old to about my mid-20s, I was in this weird situation where in Louisville, the city that I grew up in and live in, there's a weird question that gets asked, and that is, it's like the Louisville question. Where'd you go to high school, right? And again, we're a decent-sized city, about 1 million people, right? But again, it's this weird question we could ask, and essentially what they're asking is, where did you go to high school? Is like, where did you grow up? What part of town did you grow up? You know, who were you around? All that kind of stuff. And I found this thing that was really strange to me. When I got out of high school and I started dating girls, I ended up dating these girls that were from the nice part of town. I was in like the not-so-nice part of town. Like, it wasn't the worst, but it wasn't the nicest part of town. And I started dating these girls that were from like the nice part of town. And I found this thing where, you know, I remember I went to one girl's house and their parents asked where I went to high school. I told them, and you would have thought she brought home a homeless person. She's like, oh, okay. Like, you know, it was just instantly a different change. I remember like talking to girls at parties and like they would ask, hey, what high school did you go to? I tell them, oh, and instantly that energy that they're giving me was poof, it was gone. So strange. So then I started to feel ashamed about it because I'm like, oh, there must be something bad about it. Or whatever. You get it because rejection doesn't feel good, right? So then I remember one of my first girlfriends, her and I made the conscious decision to tell her parents that I went to a different high school. So this way it wouldn't create any problems for us dating because she really liked me. And she's like, well, I don't want them to dislike you, right? Because of something so stupid. Something so trivial. It's so dumb. It's so stupid, right? Again, who am I right now, right? That should matter more, right? And as I got older, it only continued. I remember, I didn't finish my 4-year degree because different reasons. That's a story for a different video. But I didn't finish my 4-year degree. Same thing happened as I'm dating these girls in my mid-20s. Meanwhile, I own a business. I'm training. I'm doing all the stuff that I want to do. I'm living the life that I literally dreamed about. I'm having a good time. I'm starting to make some decent money, go on a date with them. How'd your college thing go? I didn't finish it. Oh, the same exact thing. So again, I started to feel ashamed about it, but eventually you come to a point, and I'm sure you're probably there at some point too, where you get tired of feeling ashamed about stuff that's just who you are, right? You're like it's so like, it burns you in a weird spot. Because I remember as like, when I was in that relationship with that girl, when I was around her parents, I always felt like a liar. Even though it was like one little thing, just where I went to high school, such an insignificant thing, I felt like a friggin' liar inside. And when I would have to talk to people and like sort of avoid those questions, you know what I mean? Like I remember that people would be talking about going to college or high school. I would like, I'm gonna get the hell out of here. Like a group would ask, because I didn't want the question to come to me. So I'd get out and get the hell away and go like use the bathroom for like a really long time. So again, I get that sort of hiding thing away. But again, eventually you got to come to grips with like, you are who you are, So for me, it came to the point where I sort of just dashed that shame that I had. That's more inner work stuff, right? Getting rid of that shame that I had. And eventually when I was going on dates with people, if they don't like it, screw you. If you're going to judge me on something so small like that, I don't care, right? Like I don't want to be around you anyway. And with you, you're in a similar situation. It's a more impactful thing than what I dealt with for sure, but it's kind of the same at the core, right? And I think we all deal with this stuff, right? We all have these little things inside of us. Maybe it's your sexuality, maybe it's where you went to high school, but we have these things where we have things that we become ashamed of, and we don't want to express them or let people see them because we don't want to be put in a friggin' box. Like you were saying, you don't want to be put in the box of the gay guy, right? Like you don't want to be identified as it because you're like, that's just something who I am. No one's going to identify me as the hetero bearded guy, right? Well, they might, but you don't want to be put in a damn box, right? So I get that. And so again, I think it starts first, man, just from talking with you and through the emails a little bit. First off, I think you may, just like I did, have some of that deep shame because we grew up with it, right? At the time we were growing up, that was the thing, right? You grew up with that deep shame during your formative years, and you probably are holding that stuff in. So the first thing I think is, man, dash that off. Be whoever the hell you want to be, right? Second thing is that when it comes to your gym, I have no easy answer for this. And also for any of you guys, if anyone has ever been in this situation, if you have some perspectives to share for our friend Bob, throw them out there for him. I'd love to see him, and it would be helpful to him if you've been through this situation yourself. But what I would say do if I was in your situation and I had to sort of open up about something, I would start with the people that you're closest to in the gym, right? The people, like you said, there's a couple of those guys that you're very, very close to and you train with on a regular basis. I would open up to those guys first and just see what the response is, And again, you don't have to do it like as some big show. It can just be something that you can kind of let slip out and just see what the response is, And again, you might find that people don't really care. Like me as a coach, I've heard it several times. I don't care. By the way, if you're one of my students, if you're gay, I don't care. Like that's fine. Like be who you want to be. There's nothing worse than having to hide something like that you can, it's not even something you can control, right? And then the other thing is again, if you do get a bad response from it and you go to the coach and you get a bad response, that's not going to be a place that you're going to want to train at anyway, right? It just kind of goes against who you are. It sucks. It's not great. Life sucks sometimes, but you don't want to be around people that are going to be, sort of directly opposed to who you are as a person. It's just not going to work out long term. And so I don't have a great answer for you, but one thing I would say is start with, if you do have any shame or any guilt or any sort of negative feelings associated with that, and maybe that hinders you from, again, other experiences in the past, work to get rid of that stuff. You might even seek some sort of professional sort of guidance with that. But the other thing is that with your situation with your training partners, man, I would just let it slip out every now and then. Whenever you're ready, let it slip out and just see what the response is. And again, if it's a good response, great. If it isn't, to hell with them. It's like, if that's the way that they're going to be, it's like, it's something so small that has really nothing to do with our training. Because just like you said, when you're rolling, it's not a sexual thing. You know, like I've rolled with some beautiful women. I'm attracted to women. I'm not gay, but I've rolled with some beautiful women. I've rolled with my girlfriend plenty of times. I remember like when we were first dating, I was rolling with my girlfriend and there was nothing sexual about it to me. It was just, we're training, you know, and again, it's not that thing to me. So again, I understand what you're saying though. Anyway, I'm starting to ramble. So brother, Bob, I hope this helps you, man. Let it slip out maybe whenever you're ready, and make sure you're doing kind of the inner work there to where you feel secure and with everything, so you're ready to deal with it, whether they say yes or no, and just kind of let things fall where they may. And again, if anybody has any experience with this, throw it out there for you. It'd be super helpful. Thanks, guys.